Cloud. Okay, so as I mentioned, so Les submitted his question, I think it was last week, so thanks very much for that, Les. And he's got a question regarding the Putski Blistine shocks versus the SPACs. And that's one, Les, I'd never heard of SPACs. Conversion.
SPACs is the offering that Spares has.
Okay.
And they're a telescopic shock, and it's adjustable.
Okay.
And price point is similar to both of them. You know, they're in the same range.
Gotcha. Now, is the Putski one you're looking at, is that through Udi out in San Diego? Now, I understand he's scaling back. Does he still have, because he's scaling back, as I understand.
Well, I looked on his website, you know, I haven't talked to him, and it looked like it was still available through the website, but you never know.
Right.
So I'm not really sure.
Well, I know
something from him saying, I read something from Udo saying he didn't have any more and he wasn't making any more.
Oh, okay.
So you might want to call or text or email.
Sure. Well, the basis of my question is I was really wondering if folks had any experience with installing them, and what kind of performance improvements did they perceive, and any issues that they might have had with these or any other enhanced shock absorbers, front and rear.
Well, I know Don Pay put him on his BJ7 and absolutely loved them. He put them on probably 10 years ago, did front and rear. He had a tech session where he kind of showed us how it all worked and everything. And he couldn't speak more highly of it. Again, I haven't talked to Don recently, but he was, and he used the Putski shock system and was very pleased with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any experience with the shock conversions from the archaic ones that we're all used to with Healey's?
Yes, I had mine put on a couple of years ago by Bob up in Massachusetts, and I really like them. It's very good. And I also have a set of SPACs on my TBR, but you know,
so it's probably hard to compare between a Healey and a TVR, but
it is. So it's hard to really say. But I really think the Healey is much improved with the set from California that Bob put on a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And Bob Abbott, do you have any other experience with other customers that have put those on?
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they were running a special, and if you bought 2 sets, paid full price, you'd get a 3rd set free.
Okay.
Well, I had 2 people that were interested in doing it, and so we got 3 sets of shocks. And I kind of felt like if the car was in bad need of shocks, you noticed a major improvement. The chatter or the stutter or the shudder going across bumpy roads was controlled much better. Handling was improved that way. I put shocks on those 2 cars and then Jim Healey's, and I used the 3rd set of shocks on my car, which really didn't need shocks. I mean, I had no complaints with the Armstrong lever shocks, but I said, what the heck, I've got them, I'm going to try it out. And I would say that my personal feeling was they didn't harm anything, but I didn't notice a great improvement. The only caution I would make is that you do want to be sure you retorque them after a few 100 miles, because like your rear Armstrong shocks, they can loosen up a bit. So suddenly you're getting an odd noise here or there, and it's a bolt that's worked loose a little bit. So retorquing is important. But I guess I would have to say that I've been involved with it 4 times now, and 3 reports were good, and mine was just so.
Okay, because I would say my shocks right now are in pretty decent shape, and I really don't have any complaints about them. I was really looking to see if there would be a substantial difference that would be worth the effort and cost.
I have them on my car. I put them on about 10 years ago after Don Pay raved about them.
Mhm.
And I tell you, the biggest improvement I found is on rough roads, and especially going over railroad tracks. I mean, my rear end used to dance around going over railroad tracks. I mean, it literally would go sideways, and with those shocks on it, it just absorbs it very well. So I was pleased with them, and like I said, I think I noticed it mainly on rougher roads.
Okay, because I do notice on rougher roads, the car does tend to dance a little bit.
Yeah, well, mine was
sideways.
really dancing, and that could have been springs too. I don't know, but it definitely improved. It definitely improved the ride, the car.
Did you put new springs on too, Bob? Or just shocks?
I did prior to that. I didn't do it at the same time, but I don't have original springs. I put, but now those springs are over 20 years old. Now those springs are probably a little soft.
Can I ask-
Alden, you have a question?
Yes, I came a little bit late to the conversation here because I got delayed. The weakest point in my suspension is the rear end of shock. It's just.
Hey, Alden, wait a minute. Let's see if we can get rid of the, are other people hearing this echo?
Yeah,
Yes.
somebody's got a mic on.
Yeah, if you're not speaking, can you put your phone on mute? So anyone who's not speaking, put your phone on mute and then come off. That's better.
No, it's still there.
Yeah. I'm not sure what caused that.
Anyway, is there another type of shock or something that, because my car that's the weakest part of the driving of it is the going over railroad tracks or any kind of rough road at all. I came late to the conversation. Is there an improvement that can be made? Or is there a better shock or what? Can't hear you at all, Peter.
Peter, you're on mute.
Okay, apologize.
That's
And we're-
better.
But we're still getting a lot of background noise. Everything echoes.
Peter, can you mute everybody and
Yeah. Let me get, sorry. See, when no one speaks, it's good.
Okay, if I speak, that's
Let's-
not, there's no problem anymore for me.
Go ahead, Alden.
Okay. As I was saying, I came late to this section of the conversation. I'm sorry about that. Is there a better way to get the rear end to behave? Is there something I can do to the shocks I have, or do they need replacement? What's the situation? They have oil in them.
So again, what we were talking about is from Age Spares, there's what they call SPAX, shock absorber kit, and then Putski,
What is it called?
SPAX, AH Spares has them.
Yeah.
And so that's been, and so Les Roberts was asking about doing it for his car. Bob Abbott talked about, he's installed 4 different sets for customers. 3 of them really enjoyed them, and Bob did it in his own car and said it was okay. Bob Britton talked about, he's done it in his car about 10 years ago and said it's really improved it, especially going over railroad tracks.
Now, is this is this the standard type shock? It fits, you don't have to modify the car or anything. It's the same type of shock, only a better one. Is that what it is?
It's a totally
all-
different type of shock.
they all
Oh.
tend to be bolt on, so you don't need to weld or do anything, but they are definitely different than the existing shocks. They're really tube shocks.
Oh, they're tube shocks that are adapted for this?
Correct.
Okay.
But
And
you don't
those
have to make any modifications to the car, Alden.
okay, and did they make enough of a difference to be worth it, or are they expensive, or is it fairly straightforward?
Well, that was really my question that I started with was, were they worthwhile and what performance increase did people have and what issues, if anything, did folks have? So that was the discussion we were having when you joined us.
And was the consensus is that it's generally worth it?
It's still going on, I think.
Okay, well, thank you. AH Spares SPAS shock kit, right?
Facts, yep.
Thank
And
you.
Ken Back or Bob Ewell, do you have any experiences with these new shock kits, or Mike Salter?
Generally, no. We tend to stick with the original shocks and just make sure they're in good condition.
This is,
Thanks,
by
Bob.
the way, my
speaking.
shocks are from Footsie's, not from AH Spares.
Yeah, the Blistine ones from,
Yeah,
but again,
they're
we're not sure.
Bilstein.
Udi, I think he's talking about going on a scaling back. I think he's going to be on your Norwegian tour, Bob, but I don't think he's gonna.
Going. I heard he's going.
Right. So, Mike Salter, any recommendations from you?
Not really. I converted AHX12 to coilover shocks for rallying.
Mhm.
And there was no comparison. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was like driving a BMW, but that was a huge modification. So what can you say? It's a totally different suspension system. It's really the only coilover telescopic shock conversion I've had any experience with.
Okay. And Les, what are they running right now for a set of shocks?
I think the specs were around 460 pounds for front and similar for the rear.
So 1,000 pounds all in?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so you're talking,
And I think when I looked at
$1,500.
the Bilstein one, I think it was $1,049 was the price that was listed on his website.
okay. So it sounds like if your car handles very poorly, it's a big improvement. If you've got a nice handling car, it maybe it's not as significant as you may like.
I would point out, though, that if you've got worn front shocks with the shock conversions, the front shock absorber is still the inner pivot for the upper wishbone. So if you've got a lot of wear in the bearings inside that shock absorber, or there's no lubrication in that shock absorber, you're going to have loose suspension, rattly suspension anyway.
Right. I think they suggest you pull the valve out of the Armstrong shock absorbers and make sure the oil is filled up in it.
Okay. Any other
So,
thoughts
Peter,
or
this is a
comments for Les?
Yeah, Peter.
Hi, Bob.
Peter, this is Bob Easterbrook speaking. Hi, I've got a car up at Mark LeBlanc's that he's going through right now, and we're not at that point yet. But if it's in a million pieces, I'd like to know what people's thoughts are on just transitioning to upgrading the shocks right now while it's all apart. Any thoughts on that?
That's
I
a good
noticed
time to
that's
do
a
it.
Joe.
New build.
Dave Bevan did it on his, Bob. I don't know
Okay.
if you noticed when you were up at the.
Yeah, I know.
tech
Yeah,
session.
I saw them. Yeah.
Well,
So if you're gonna do it, Bob, you might as well do it now instead of waiting. But you're gonna have to get new lever shocks anyways, right? I assume the shocks that you had from 1969 aren't any good any longer.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Looking at your car, I think you need new shocks.
Yeah, I probably do. Little
What's
paint,
another
new shock.
$1,000?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll talk to him about it. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
We find that the cars that we build, we are not building cars for serious competition work. We're either repairing cars or building them for general enjoyable driving. And the biggest problem with the shocks is that they tend not to stay tight. And when they come loose, then that's when you start getting squirrely suspension. Having said that, if the shocks are leaking or worn or lost all their action, then you'll get the same sort of action. But the one thing that we really stress is keeping them tight. To that end, we've gone to using what they call the Nordlock washers, and it's like a two-piece washer that goes under on the bolts that hold them down, under the head of the bolt on the front and under the nut on the rear, and they tend to work very well.
And Bob, you call those Nordlock washers?
Yeah, Nordlock.
And if you don't keep those bolts tight, they'll rip out that plate right off the top of your suspension,
Oh yeah.
and which is not fun to fix.
Yeah, I put all new, my car came in 2010 with new rear springs, shocks, the whole 9 yards. And I've gone back and tightened them up. I pretty much do it every year. And I put grade 8 bolts in there, the nuts, and I can really get them snug. And but I usually got an extra half a turn out of them, so they do seem to come loose. So it's a good thing annually to go in there and snug them up, I'd say.
Thanks, Ted.
What actually tends to happen in most cases is that the head of the bolt digs into the zinc die cast of the shock absorber.
Yeah,
That's really what makes them come loose. So keeping them tight, and as Bob says, those Nordlock washers do work very well.
Great.
Hey, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the feedback.
Great. Well, thanks, Les, for your question. We appreciate it. Bob Schneider, you had some questions regarding, you've got a 63 BJ7?
Right, Pete. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, we're getting into a little warmer driving weather now, and just was wondering what people's experiences are with respect to, when you get stuck in traffic, idling. I have a pretty original car. I'm the second owner of it, and it runs fine. It runs 180, 190 if it's getting really hot. But when you get stuck in traffic, it creeps up to 212, maybe even a little bit higher. Once you get moving again, it'll come down back to 180, 190, depending on the temperature. And I'm just wondering, is that normal? Is that just, I've had the car for 12 years. I put up with it. I try to find routes that don't have a lot of stop and go traffic. But, is it just because we're not in jolly old England where it's 55 to 65 degrees out and there's not a heck of a lot of airflow under that hood? What's the general consensus? Is this what you experience with a stock car? And what have been some of the best solutions you've done to try to help mitigate it?
How new is your radiator, Bob?
It's original. The whole car is original.
Okay.
I've had the coolant changed. Like I said, when you're driving, it's fine. It's just when you stop, it'll creep up after. It doesn't take long, especially when the car gets heat, when it gets some heat in the car,
Yep. I put an electric fan, a Hayden fan on the front of my 100. And I run a toggle switch with that. And so when I get to stop and it gets up to, 180, 190, I flip the toggle switch and it will maintain that temperature. It won't bring it down, but it will maintain it. So now it's the only one of my cars that I do have a fan on, but it's worked well on that 100.
Is that running on a positive ground?
It is. Yep.
So I guess you have to be, you have to watch how often you use it though. If you're running a generator, right? That'll wear that battery out pretty quick.
I don't know. I haven't had that, I am positive ground. I'm running a generator on that car.
Okay.
So, yesterday, we were out, it was, 75 degrees here, and a few times I was in some stop and go traffic, and I flipped the fan on and I let it run for, a minute or so. And then we start moving again, the temperature come back down to 180 or so.
Okay.
I can help with that a little bit. The experience that I've had is, first thing is, there are two ducts on the side of the radiator that go forward to the grill. And when people take the radiator out, they bend those ducts inwards so that they can extract the radiator. And when they put the rad back in, they fail to put the ducts fully out to the edge of the radiator. And they're very important because they stop the hot air from the engine compartment circling around and coming back into the front of the radiator. That's the first thing that I know about. If you've got an original radiator, the original radiators were good, but you probably should take it out and have it properly cleaned, which in most cases involves taking off one of the tanks and rodding, what they call rodding the radiator, pushing little rods down each of the core tubes to get out little lumps that are blocking the tubes. And the third thing that I'd mention, we've in Southern Ontario Club, has been mentioned several times and it's been very successful. You can actually fit a third fan blade on the 2-blade fan system to fill in the gap. So you end up with 6 blades or three double blades or 6 ends of blades, and it is remarkably effective. That would be my suggestions.
Yeah, Michael, that's a great point. So do you know what you have for a fan? Is it the original fan, Bob?
Yeah, it's original fan.
Yeah.
Yep.
6-bladed fan's good.
And the
And
other
you
suggestion.
you can use an original fan blade to add to your fan to turn it into a 6-blade fan. Sounds weird, but you can actually do it.
The other
I've
suggestion
got a plastic
would be
6-bladed on mine.
the other suggestion would be that water wetter has worked well in bringing the temperature down.
Good point.
I mean,
Les.
when it comes to, it could be, I worry about nothing. I mean, these engines, I have a TR6, a 70 TR6, half a liter smaller engine. You could sit that thing in traffic all day at 85 degrees. It doesn't move off doesn't move off 190 degrees. There's more room around the air, engine compartment, more airflow. I mean, how hot can these engines get? I mean,
I think on your TR6, you'll notice that it's got a multi-blade fan and has a shroud around the fan to make sure the fan just draws air through the radiator. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, Michael, that's a good point. I'll definitely check to make sure that those wings are around the radiator there. Okay.
My experience is the wings are important, but with a good fan, and mine is both automatic and manual, and it works. It's just even on the 80, pushing 90-degree days, it works.
Where's a good place to find it? The Hayden fan. Pete or
Moss
anyone
sells
else?
them.
Who? Moss.
Moss
Okay.
sells them. I put mine on 15 years
Peter?
ago. Yep.
Peter,
Okay.
that suggestion of the water wetter is also a very good suggestion. I use that on my other antique cars. And what it does, it actually changes the ionization of the water molecules and gives you a much higher boiling point. It's a great product and you can get it at any part store.
Thank you.
So Ken, will you deliver it?
Yeah, as long as it's in, southern Vermont.
Well, Bob's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Can you deliver it to him, that water wetter? He only wants 1 bottle.
I'd rather make a run up to southern Vermont, actually.
But it's a great product.
Yeah, I can
And it
always.
does work.
All right, thank you. This has been very helpful. I appreciate it.
Good.
Robert, I'm just going to jump in real quick, and everything you described is exactly what my Healey does. Stopped in traffic, shoots up, can hit 212. It's something I've just lived with, and but I just wanted to say, same symptom that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they tend to run hot, Bob. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah, that's true.
I used to run a BJ7, and it frequently would shove the temperature gauge way up into the oil pressure on the dash. And I was concerned about it until I realized that I wasn't seeing any steam and I wasn't losing any fluid. So I took a temperature sensor and checked the temperature and found out that it was running about 195. And, you know, the gauge was not giving me the correct reading.
You know, Bob, I was thinking of doing that as well, getting a gun or checking it, because I never had that kind of a temperature when I'm running it, but when it stopped, when you shut it off, it'll spike up to that. It'll kind of peg the gauge sometimes. If you're driving when it's 85 out and you come home and you shut it off. I suspect most cars heat up after you shut them off if they don't have a fan run. You just don't see it. But with the type of, you know, thermostat and with the type of gauge that our Healey's have, you see it.
Yeah, I've had mine run over 212 and you think it's going to boil over, and I've never had one boil over on me.
To me, that's been normal. I've had my car for a long time and I've never done anything other than run it like that. It runs at, you know, 185, 190, and then when you're in traffic or something, it goes up and eventually comes back down.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's just something you don't normally see, you know, with the. But
another thing that we've run into in the last couple of years is the rad caps, and the caps are rated at, say, 7 pounds. We've had them checked and they've been as high as 30 pounds.
Ooh.
And they've also been as low as 2 pounds. And this is for the same cap from the same supplier.
Wow.
So we've taken to, every time we replace a cap, we check the pressure on it before we put it on.
And as I recall, doesn't David Knox sell some special longer tubed radiator cap? That's supposed to, I remember Judd Perkins had it on his car and said it made a difference.
No, that's a thermostat.
Oh, thermostat. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Michael.
So how do you check a thermostat? Excuse me. How do you check a radiator cap unless you have a shop or something?
You buy a Stant radiator cap checking kit.
Oh, okay.
Do they sell those in Vermont? So is there an easy way to check them, or there is not?
Not really. No, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's a Stant radiator checking kit, cap checking kit. But the variation in the caps is horrendous.
Well, is this an expensive item, or is this something that's pretty? You put is this go on the radiator and then you put the cap on that, or how does it work?
You put there's a special adapter. You put the cap onto the adapter, and then there's a little pump device that you pump up, and you can see when the radiator cap releases. Oh, it's made by Stant. I think they're only about $60, aren't they, Bob?
Well, I bought the entire kit with an anvil, a vise, a workbench, and everything else in an auction sale for about $10.
I'll go and get one and show you what it looks like.
Thanks, Michael. So, Bob, any other questions?
No, this has really been very helpful. Ideas are great, and it's nice to hear. I don't know if it's nice, but it's good to hear that similar experiences of how the car runs.
Well, it sounds like you got lots of choices here. So, probably starting with the water wetter would probably be the first place, and then, going to a 6-bladed fan, probably before you put an auxiliary fan on, maybe something you'd want to consider, and checking that the vents are properly, facing towards the radiator.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll get the water wetter, check those vents, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Can I ask what pound cap should you use on these cars?
I think 3 pounds.
How many pounds on the radiator cap?
7 pounds.
7 pounds.
Well,
That's what I use. Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of fans, has anybody used one of those Texas coolers that you see advertised by Moss? That used to be sold separately, but they now sell it. The fiberglass fan. I think it's 5 or 6 blades.
You can't use, you
I
can't
was
use
thinking
them.
of buying one, but I'm not sure why. I don't really have a overheating problem, but they seem like they would work better than the 4-blade original fan.
And you can't use them with Gymkhanas, Bob. They've had some problems with them. Not that we're doing Gymkhanas up very much anymore, but you can't, that's
Okay.
on
Oh,
SSCA, they're outlawed.
Texas coolers ruled out too. I just thought the flex fans were ruled out.
Well, I don't, Jeff Parada would be able to tell us that, but I didn't think they were permitted.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Well, you know, it's funny.
of,
I ran a flex fan for years,
Huh.
and I had to take it out to run that Gymkhana because of that. And I put my original 4-blade fan in. I found absolutely no difference in
Really?
cooling of the car. No. So that flex fan was doing nothing. You know, maybe in heavy traffic it might have helped, but it wasn't making any difference.
You got 10 more horsepower though, Bob.
Yeah, I mean,
with that tri-carb. Yeah, so Michael's showing the kit.
There's the stand test kit. This is the pump. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
This is the pump. It's a pressure gauge here, and you put the radiator cap onto there, pump that up, and it lets you know when the cap lets go. Pretty simple. For you, special price today only.
Another couple of thoughts is Dennis Welch, and I'm sure AH Bears sells the same thing. They have some plastic fans that they've engineered to run well, and I've put one on my BN1, which has a very well worked over engine, and it has worked very, very well on it. And that's another possibility. The other thing is when you go to get a new radiator cap or even thermostat, maybe go into the Stant catalog at one of the auto parts stores rather than just ordering from Moss, which is probably going to be the basic one that they send, because I found some years ago Stant for a radiator or thermostat for a different car. They had the standard equipment one you got, which didn't do much for me. And then they had a medium grade, and then they had like a premium grade. And when I got it, and it was only a few bucks more, it was really well made. And that completely solved my problem for all these years. So instead of going to just Moss, maybe look in the Stanton catalog, probably online, and see if they offer a couple of different options for the Healey. Maybe not, but that was very surprising. And I still got that thermostat made in USA, and it was very nice. So just another thing to think about.
Thanks, Ted.
What was the catalog?
I actually went into the Advanced Auto Parts store where I buy stuff, and the catalog was by Stant, STANT. It was one of the larger manufacturers for radiator caps and thermostats and stuff. And if they offered a better or their own brand of radiator cap, I might do that rather than whatever Moss sends you from China.
Because I changed mine to what's supposed to be, I think, the original one with a sleeve on it, so that when it's in operation with heat, it doesn't allow the water to recirculate.
Okay, yeah.
What do you know about that?
That's the thermostat. That's the David Knox system, right?
I guess so. In any event, I can't tell whether it makes much difference or not, but the idea was that both on my Triumph and on the Healey, these were a worthwhile thing to do.
Getting back to that Stant kit, if you want to find them, they're available online. The part number is ST255. Just search for ST255. They're about $50.
Thanks, Michael. Penny's got some questions for us. Thanks for joining, Penny. Do you want me to share some of the pictures that you shared, like starting with your tires?
Because that's the bad part.
Well, you want to start at the top there. So let me, oh geez, I shouldn't have done that. So Penny, why don't you start and give us what your questions are, and then I'll see if I can pull that up while you're looking.
My question is, both tires on the front tires have worn bald on the outside edge, probably 2.5 to 3 inches. the tires were new in September of 2019. I've probably put 2,000 miles on them. And I noticed when I look at the car from dead on front, it seems to be tilting out. So there's a picture of the tire, which I noticed after I did the drive to the Poconos. And then this weekend, I really noticed it. So I'm wondering if it's something I can fix, if I can go in and do I adjust the tie rod? So the shocks had all been replaced. The car had been at a shop. Shocks had all been replaced. Front end had all the bushings replaced. Brand new Vertistine tires. Tires had been shaved as well. Wheels had been true. And actually that's a picture of a brand new wheel on that one as well.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Without
So,
looking in-
Well,
without
and
saying
unfortunately, you're
anything
gonna need to
else.
replace those tires.
oh yeah, I already know that.
Yeah,
I've
sorry.
got the, but it's no sense just replacing the tires and
Right.
not fixing the problem. So my question is this something, can I adjust that tie rod with that 7/16 nut? The bushings all look good underneath, or do I need to take it to a shop?
You've got excessive toe in causing
Okay.
that problem. Okay, that means that the front of the wheels are closer together than the backs of the wheels, if you know what I mean. With a Healey, you can actually do the toe in adjustment yourself on a flat surface without getting into sophisticated equipment. You sight along the tire. That's, you get the front edge and the back edge of the tire, and it should be almost exactly parallel with the rear tire on both sides at the same time. Did you follow that?
Yep.
Okay, and that's for a Healey, because the back of a Healey has got a slightly wider track than the front. That gives you, I think, about a 1/16 of an inch of toe in. I'd say you've got 3/16 to a 1/4 of an inch of toe in with those tires.
Okay.
And it's on both tires.
It's
Penny shared
identical on both
yeah,
tires.
They look the same.
Then that's toe in for sure.
And
So-
it's only on the outside, not the inside, right?
That's correct. Toe
Correct.
out is on the inside.
Right. Okay. I didn't hear what she said. I thought she said it was both in and out, but it's only the outside?
It's the front tires, but both of them look identical.
Oh, yeah, clearly that's a situation.
And is it that tie rod,
It's
Michael?
that center, what they call the center rod.
Yes.
The one that's got a right-hand thread on one end and a left-hand thread on the other. You have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes if the chassis has been damaged and the top of the shock towers have been moved in, you'll find the adjustment, you run out of adjustment, but it's usually the other way. If the shock towers are moved in, you end up with excessive toe out. So I would think you'd be able to adjust that out quite easily.
Okay.
And I'd say that's about 4 turns of the rod.
Really, that many?
Mhm.
Okay.
Wow.
Is the
And
car
Penny, is your car a
drivable, Lily?
BT7 or a BN7?
BT7.
Nice, okay.
Yeah.
All 6s are the same.
Is the car driving normally?
No, it's shaking like, that's what I noticed this weekend. Good God, it about shook me to death.
Are there flat spots on the outside?
Doesn't look it.
No, it's just bald. It's
Yeah,
bald.
but as you rub your hand over it, does this go in and out? Is it?
No, no. Yeah, no.
I suspect if you Google or go on Austin-Healey Experience's website, you can find some basic guidance to tell you how to do it.
That's what I did.
Okay, yeah.
But
yeah.
I just wanted to, it sounded like something I could do, but I
Yeah.
wanted to run it by you guys to see if
Yeah.
it
I
was.
should also
something-
point out, Penny, that you must do this when the car is on the ground. You can't do it while you got
Yes.
the front end jacked up. Okay, so
Right.
you do a little bit of adjustment, you push the car forward and backwards to relieve all the load, then you look along the wheels.
Okay, okay. That's what I read. So it sounded like something I could do. It'll probably take me more time than it would take you, but
Can you just go to a shop and get a front end alignment? Will that work?
Any shop can, I mean, you can only adjust the toe in, and you know, a shop can easily set this, you know, and you might find a shop that if all you're setting toe in, they might not charge you the higher price. I mean, you might find that the simplest thing to do.
even if it's a not, see, I don't have any British shops near me. That's why I've had to learn to.
Well,
do
you
it
don't have to go to a British shop. You can go to
Okay.
any any shop, any shop that has an alignment machine. I've had mine done by the shops.
Okay, I see Michael laughing. Is that what you suggest, Michael?
Penny
I
can
mean,
knock that over in 2 hours.
if you're good at measuring from front to rear and all that stuff, that's great. But they'll put it on their machine and they'll get it really precise, and might cost you $89 or something.
That's nothing
Or
at this
at least
point.
that's the price here in New Hampshire for an
Yeah.
alignment.
And you don't have sales tax either. So bring it up to Bob. He'll do it for you.
No, I'll give you the name of a shop in Peterborough that can do it.
What were you gonna say, Ken?
It costs a lot more to replace those tires than the cost of an alignment.
Right. Yeah, those tires are gonna have to be replaced, unfortunately, Penny.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that. I've already got the tires on order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you said you had those even shaved beforehand. It was
Yeah.
balanced and everything, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They're really
they
shaved
shaved them
now.
good.
Yeah, they shaved you.
Well, I put
Sorry, Penny,
miles
we
on
didn't-
them anyway. I'm driving.
We didn't mean to laugh, Penny. Sorry.
I'm laughing because it's all you can do at this point some days. Some days.
You have some other questions you have for us
So
too?
my second question was, of course, and this weekend when I went out, I did before I noticed all this, which I should have noticed it, I did an 80-mile drive and I left it, went the next morning and go turn it on. Of course, it's dumping fuel all over. So I pulled the overflow floats, and sure enough, the center float had sunk. And naturally, I did not have the brass float with me, so I had 3-hour round trip, went and got one, fixed it, got it home. But I noticed that my overflow tubes, the rear overflow tube, the heat has deformed it and it's melted somewhat. And I want to replace my tubes. And I know it's a 1/8 inch inside diameter and 1/4 outside, but what material is everybody suggesting to use? The overflow tubes that I had came from David Knock, and they're like a polyethylene fuel resistant material, but they're not holding up. And I'm going to go to a longer tube as well, even.
I use irrigation tubing.
That's what you use? Oh, that's easy. I have that.
Works
Really?
fine.
I've got plenty of that. Okay, that's simple. Perfect. Okay.
Because isn't most of that tubing steel?
No, all the overflow tubes on the BT7, you've got off the
You
top.
got a
of-
tricarb too.
Yes, and see, it's got that little brass inlet that comes out to a little clear plastic piece that then hooks into black plastic. And that's what seems to be melting.
Key is to try to keep that away from your exhaust.
Well, yeah, I've got them, they route through and they come out the side of the chassis. So they're not near the exhaust. Luckily, they're not near the exhaust.
Yeah, BJ8s have the same problem.
So I'll just replace it with the irrigation tubing. That's easy. Thank you.
No one's ever asked that question before either. We got all these new questions tonight, Penny. Thank you for that.
Thanks, guys.
Well, and I really appreciate that you're as engaged and involved with working on your car as you are. It's awesome.
Well, it's I don't have any shops near me, and I like to drive it. So I've
Yeah.
had to learn how to do the things and make sure I can repair it.
Well, congratulations. That's excellent.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun. I've had fun with it. It's a challenge.
I would say your comment about the float pen is interesting because I just did a tour in New Zealand and 2 of the cars had problems with those brass floats leaking. And it's almost to the point where I'm starting to think I'll carry one with me.
I can tell you I'm adding a kit
Mm.
because it was a 3-hour round trip drive. And once I got what I needed, it took
It's
me 30
Not
minutes.
like they take up a lot of room.
Yeah, they do.
No.
So I'm replacing a kit in the car right now that's going to have what I need to replace that float fairly quickly and not have to do that. I had the parts. I had them at home. I just didn't have it with me.
Great. Are there other questions tonight?
How do we get the full screen back?
Well, we stopped sharing.
Okay, there we go.
You don't want to see Penny's tires anymore? Look at, and she wore her red just to match her
Yeah.
her BT7 as well.
In fact, it's talking about tires. Michelin, or what's the other one that starts with V?
Yeah.
What's the consensus of who of which tire works the best on Austin-Heelys?
Well, the Verdensteins is what Penny's got on hers. I've got it on both my big Heelys. I was running Michelin's on my 100, and I switched to Verdensteins.
So most people are going that way now?
I don't know, I just put Michelin XASs on mine and it runs really nice.
I have Michelin's on mine and it really drives nicely.
Yeah.
But I know people are going back and forth to get a little more height out of the car if you use the Verdensteins.
I don't think the height is that much difference. I think the between the original tire, the Dunlops, and the Michelin XAS, it's 4/10 of an inch in diameter.
What is the what is the size of the tire you're using?
I'm using the 165/15s.
Okay, and then others are using 180s or 185 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a bigger tire.
Yeah, Alden, I have 180 XASs, Michelin's. I got them from Longstone over in England. And they run great. I mean, I had them shaved by Kenny. I don't know if I even had to have them shaved, but he did, and they're smooth.
Yeah. How important is shaving? If you got everything else working, the drums are nice and balanced and the wheels are true, is shaving really a necessity, or it depends who you talk to? I've talked to Hendricks and he says, oh God, you got to shave them all because they're 90% of them are out of round. What's the thought here?
I mean, I don't know.
I disagree with that entirely. Modern tires are incredibly accurately built. They really are, because you can't put cars on your average Nissan and have them bouncing all over the place. So they really are very well made. If you've got an out of round, it's most likely the wheel.
There's more problems with wheels than tires.
I agree. I agree. Don't shave until you absolutely have to. And then even then, the cost of sending them down and getting them shaved, is it really worth it?
Ken Beck does it as well, Alden. When he did mine, he said my wheels were square.
Well, Alden, I got new wheels. My car had the original Dayton's on, and so when I put the Michelin's on, Kenny mounted them and he said, do you want to shave them? And I said, okay, why not? I think you're only going to shave off as much as you need. So if there's run out, a lot of run out, you take a lot of rubber off. If you don't have a lot of run out, you take a little off.
Yep.
And so I just had it done because I thought, well, then it's done. And I don't know really what it's like to drive them without shaving them. So in fact, I was just texting Kenny, they're 12 years old. I should probably get them replaced. I might not have them shaved this time, but that's a pain in the butt. I think I'd take them back, have them, you know what I mean? So
if everything is perfect, you don't need to shave them.
Yeah.
But how fast do you have to drive the car to have this noticeable?
Like 150.
Like 100 maybe?
No. Scuttle shake with a Heeley at 60, 55, 60. When Ken did mine, it made a significant difference.
It did. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also had a good experience. I had been driving my car and I had a very significant shuttle stick around 65, 70, and it was always there. It would go away if you went faster or slower, but in that range, it was there. I brought them down to Ken. He shaved them. And after that, no shuttles shake. And when I got a new set of tires, I got them from him and he shaved them, and I have had no issue with that whatsoever.
It takes one of the variables out of the equation. So you might as well do it if you're going to get new tires.
But is
and
the
wheels.
The first thing is to get the wheels right. If the wheels are right, then worry about the tires.
The problem is getting the wheels right. I have yet to see a perfect wheel. We used to sell a lot of Dayton wire wheels, and they say they're accurate to within 40 thousandths of an inch. And that's not true. We had some out over 50,000, brand new out of the box.
Huh.
So just about no matter what you put on the car, it's not going to be quite perfect. And it makes a difference. And if you want to go, I mean, for 50 years, we've been driving these cars and they shake. People say, oh, the guy didn't balance them right. Well, that could be too. But the wire wheels are not perfect. And if they're not perfect, it's going to show up.
But you can get them pretty perfect, can't you? If a competent person does checks them and adjusts them, right? Or wrong?
Buy new ones.
I'd
I'm
like
sorry?
to see it.
I'm sorry.
Buy new ones, Alden. Don't.
Well, I've got ones that came with a car and they're new. I mean, they were new when I got them, and so far they've checked out perfectly. But
did you check them with a dial indicator? When you say they check out
Yes.
perfectly?
Well, I took them down to this fellow in Massachusetts, and he ran them around, and he said they're perfect.
He ran them around.
Well, you know, you roll them around and look at the gauge and see what's happening.
Oh, he had a fixture, a splined hub, put them on and turned it and checked it with a dial indicator.
Right.
Okay, well then they're perfect.
Yeah, both. What do you call it when it's out around? That's a run out this way. When the other way is whether they go this way. Right. I mean, there's two ways you check. Not only whether they're round with respect to the hub, so the hub's actually in the center, but whether they wobble too. Side
to side is barely noticeable. If it's out front to back, then it's gonna hop. It's like a dodo ball. One of those basketballs that hops as you go down the road, and you're gonna feel it. 55 miles an hour is right in that range.
Yep,
is where they show up.
Yep. Well, I had trouble with the drums on the rear wheels.
Yep. That too. Yeah.
I took him down to Hendricks. I was going by that way. I took him down to Hendricks, and he got them balanced. They were original ones, and he told me that what happened was that the manufacturer told told Healey that if you want these really right, I'll have to charge you more money. And he says, no, I don't want to pay the extra money. So that's the way they sold them. Yeah. I don't know whether that's true, but that's what he said.
There's even more things that play into it. If you have bolt-on wheels, there's such a thing as a hub-centered wheel and a lug-centered wheel.
You got to put them on and get those right with an indicator, and move them around until you get the least run out on them. Hendricks gave me a video of how when you mount the hub, you mount it serially and one lug after another as you go around like that, and get where it has the least run out.
You'll find
and then you mark it.
The center line of the lugs is not the same center line of the hole in the center of the hub center wheel.
Right.
So if you mount a wheel on lugs and then mount it on a cone, like most wheel balancers do that, you actually have a variance in the center lines.
Yes. So the way Hendricks explained it with this video, you put the hub on over the lugs. And then you do, what do you call the gauge?
For the run out?
A what?
Dial indicator.
Yes, and see how it moves. And then you put it on again on another lug in another direction, just going around until you get the least movement. And it shouldn't have a tolerance of more than about 1,000th.
Well, the beauty of our Healeys is most of them have wire wheels, so we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
We have our own alignment issues, but they're different.
You got the hub, you got the wheel, and then you got the tire. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Ken Gibson, I know you had a few things you want to talk about tonight.
Yeah, the first thing I want to do is I want to thank everybody that responded to me when you sent the mass email out. I was looking for the British Bullet crimping tool, and I got at least 20, maybe even 25 responses, and I just think that speaks, volumes for, the club we're in. So I just want to say thank you on that. And I did find him with a tool from Nick Barber, and he was only 45 minutes up the road from me. So that was great.
Perfect. And Nick's on the call right now. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. The other thing is,
You're welcome.
you sent me that guy from Long Island. You sent him here, and there's a couple of things that was in the boxes that I have no use for, and one is kind of neat. It's an original BN1 shift knob. Anybody that's searching for a 3-speed shift knob, it's yours for the asking. I don't want any money for it. There was also a 6-cylinder rear tail light lens. You may have this free of charge. And a 6-cylinder reflector, the rubber with the reflector in it. And anybody who needs or wants those, just give me a call, text me, email me, whatever, and they're yours.
That's Ken Gypsum who's offering those.
And you can text me at area code 518-423-7565. Now, my last thing I've got, it's a technical question on side curtains. I've got a BN2 with the side curtains that have the flap on the bottom. And I don't know if it's gonna show up, but Moss sells these, they're actually MG side curtain bolts that go inside the trim. I don't know if you can see that.
Is that the picture you sent me, Ken?
I sent you a picture.
Okay, let me share that. Just a minute.
That's a lift the dot post, is it, Ken?
No, sir, this is the one that slides in the chrome trim.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Outside of the side curtain, it goes through the material, then through the frame, and you put a nut on the back side, on the inside, and it holds that chrome trim and the material onto the side curtain.
What's the diameter of the head, Ken?
Well, it's hard to see in that picture, but it's oval shaped.
Oh, yeah.
So when you put the nut on, it doesn't turn.
Yep, I know.
Because it's behind that, the curve piece, and they're just not quite long enough. They're for MGTDs side. So I was just wondering if anybody else had that problem.
So you're looking for a source for those, Ken?
Well, I need a longer shaft. And
Don't we all?
I kind of like to find these before I have to take, bolts and put them on the bench grinder. Come on, Rick.
I had Jeff Chrysler do a set of side curtains for me with the chrome on them, and he was able to supply those. So it may be worth trying to ask him where he gets them.
And what's that name?
Jeff Chrysler. He's in Victoria, BC. He's what's the name of his outfit?
Isn't it Vintage Heritage or Heritage Vintage?
No.
Right way.
Right way here.
Oh, right way. Sorry.
Right way trim.
Is that right with an R or a W?
R-I-G, right, R-I-G-H-T, right way.
Hey, Ken, if you go onto our website, onto the Zoom section, we've got Jeff was one of our that we set him up as one of our special age BS members. So he gave a whole presentation about 2 years ago on trimming.
Okay. Yeah, I sent you a picture of the side curtains too.
But that was a while ago, right?
No, just this evening.
Oh, did you? Okay, I don't have that. Okay.
So, but they came out great, but I'm just having a problem getting some of that trim on. So.
And anything else, Ken?
Do you want Jeff Chrysler's cell number? I can give it to you.
Oh, I'm set, Rich.
Okay.
Well, we're just on the tech call right now.
So Rick Neville, you got an electrical question?
I do. I'm rewiring my BJ7, and I get to the point where I'm wiring the front end near the headlights and signal lights. And my question involves the Lucas double connectors. And for one side of the headlights, there are 2 blue and white wires that come out of the main harness. And then there's a separate light wire that goes to the headlamp itself. So you got 2 blue and whites up here. And then you've got one of these, which is supposed to connect to the wire of the of the main harness. My question is, does it make any difference where that when you've got a double Lucas harness, does it make any difference where those 2 wires on the same side go?
I don't have anything planned for this week. I'm still.
Does it make any sense?
Where the guy is with the.
Anyone have any ideas for
There are
Rick?
2 types of those double things, Rick. There's the ones that are insulated and the ones that are not insulated. The type you need for what you're doing, you could get 4 wires into it, and it would effectively join all 4 wires together. Is that the type you have?
I think that's what it is. I think what you're doing is basically connecting all.
Yeah,
well,
then
there's
it
only
doesn't
3
make any
wires.
difference. Makes no difference where you put the wires. They all
That's
do
kind
the
of what I
same thing.
thought. All right, that's good news.
I have a question for Ken Beck. Going over to the Enclave last year across I-84, my BN1 did really nice, but when I got up to like 65, 70 miles an hour, I got that classic vibration like somebody else had mentioned earlier. So I was going to see if I could bring the wheels and tires down to you. You don't need the car. And could it all be done in one day? I have pretty new tires, about 1.5 years old, and they are Dayton wheels, which I think are in good shape, but you would know better. And if I was there, like when you open up in the morning, could I expect to leave with the wheels either shaved and balanced or advised that I need new wheels or something?
Yeah, we do that often for people that are traveling a distance.
Okay, okay.
Ballpark,
You're 2 hours
figure,
away, so.
yeah, figure at most 1 hour a wheel to do
Okay.
everything.
Okay. Okay, it ran so well, I'd like to be able to just punch it and go, so. But there we go. Thank you very much. I'll be in touch with you sometime.
Where are you located, Ken?
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. About an hour north of Philadelphia.
Yeah, Ken did mine when I went down to Carlisle's. I dropped him off on the way down and picked him up on the way back. It was perfect.
Perfect.
And he told me I had 2 square tires. 2 square wheels. And then got rid of them. Got all new wheels after that. But thank you, Ken.
Hey, Rich, what was that number for right way?
Oh, I think I said, I have in my contacts, I have his cell phone number.
Okay.
He advertises in British Mark every issue, if you have British Mark.
I do not.
Okay.
Well, try this number. I'm assuming it's still good. 289 887 2318.
Super. Thank you very much, Rich.
Yeah, that's a cell number I've used with him before, so.
So I've got a
And,
question.
I have another number. Sorry, I have another number for him. You might want to take.
Okay.
It's 905 679 4279. That's the one I use.
Okay. 679-4279.
Sorry, hang on. My apologies. Start again. My apologies. I got the wrong one. 250-813-2090. Is that the same one?
250-813-2090.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mine may be an old one, so you try either one.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
But you can check, he's got a great website too. And he posts regularly on Facebook and stuff. So I get a question. So I was replacing the Gator. This is on my 100. It's a BN1, but I've got a BN4 box, 4-speed box and that. So looking in here to the slave cylinder. So I've cleaned that off. There was a lot of kind of gunked up grease there. And so then on the new kit, I'll show you the kit that I got from the so that's the original shaft there, and the clevis pin, I've been able to clean that up. That's the hook right there. So mine did not have this cap like this, and I didn't have this rubber seal here. This seal here was worn. So my question is there anything else I need to do to reinstall that? I also knew the clip holes in there around the slave cylinder, but should this cap here be inverted? So because it's right now it's shaved, so should that go in theoretically upside down, if you will, and then this cap fits in there, so it's really the other direction on that?
That's that thing on the right. That's the main seal. That goes on the piston. Right?
Yes.
And that little black cap that's on the end of the rod shouldn't be there.
Okay.
All right. Someone's tried to improve the clutch release by extending the rod, which doesn't work.
Okay.
But
So
the seal on the right goes right inside the cylinder on the piston, and the lip faces towards the fluid.
okay. So remove this cap.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I lock it all in with that clip right there,
That's
and then
correct.
the clevis pin back onto the shaft with that.
And I might suggest so that clevis pin looks a bit worn. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not, normally you get the wearing right here, or, when it's against that shaft. No, the wear isn't too bad.
Put some grease on it.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
If you want to replace the clevis pin, every true hardware store has them. Just
Do
cut
they?
the length.
Okay. Thanks, Ted. Other questions tonight?
I have a neat little comment. Somebody was talking about having a fan for their radiator, and they have a toggle switch to turn it on and off. Well, I just bought on Amazon this tiny little gizmo here. It's minute, and it's actually a thermostat that turns on when it's hot and off when it's cold. Now, they're really expensive. You get 3 of them for $7. And you can
Is that
buy
Canadian?
them. Yeah, Canadian, which is only $1 US, right? And they come in increments of 10 degrees. I bought some 50-degree C ones, but they have them right up to 100 C and right down to 20 C. And they'll handle 10 amps. So that will actually handle a fan. And you could bolt this thing anywhere in your engine compartment, and it will control the fan without you ever having to worry about turning things on and off.
Really?
Yeah. But if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Brilliant little gadget.
And you found that on Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Michael, who makes that? Who on Amazon?
Some guy in China, I think. Hang on, I'll give you it. It's made by CQC, I think it is. Hang on, I'll get the bag. I can probably give you a part number. Hang on, here it is here. It is, everybody got a pencil?
Yep.
Part number is X002HE1B51.
Okay,
That fabulous little device.
cool. Other questions for tonight? So just as a reminder that we keep our website up and current. So on the homepage there, if anyone ever has questions of what's coming up, so there is a tour on Wednesday and Thursday down the Cape that Bruce Ketchen talked about earlier. This weekend, out those in Western Mass or in the Vermont area there, Wilbraham Hill Climb is this Saturday, the 13th. Those who are adventurous and want to make a trip down to Crystal River, Florida, Conclave is in 2 weeks, starting the 21st. Coming up, we've got the British by the Sea. Ted Stanton, anything you want to say about that, British by the Sea?
The only thing I'd like to remind people is that I'd like, as in past years, meet at Fort Trumbull in London, and we'll go over the group. But we need to leave by about 9:15 in order to, make a good presentation when we get there. But it'll be a scenic drive over.
Great. That's on June 4th. And it's a great event. So then on June 9th and 10th, the British Motor Cars of Bristol is in Colt State Park in Bristol, Rhode Island. Those of who went up to Summit in Newport 2 years ago, Independence Park is where we had our car show. So they are celebrating MG. It's their 100th anniversary of the MG. Yesterday at our birthday party for HCA New England, they agreed in 2025 that the Austin-Healey Club of New England will be the featured mark there for British Cars of Bristol. And then Rally for the Cure starts in Hartford, which is on June 17th. So, but any events, we have these posted on the website. So if you ever have any questions, take a look at that. We also have on the website, we have our calendar. So we keep the calendar current and updated there. Isn't that the greatest picture? That is from Louisville. That's Ben Moore's son with 501. And if you notice in his left hand, he's got a bug eye, a little yellow bug eye there. But I just think that's the greatest picture. His name's Calb, excuse me. But so we keep the website current and updated there as well in terms of the calendar. And then, our big event for New England we've got coming up is the Mystical Healey Summit, which can be September 24th to the 28th. So registration's open for that now. So look forward to that. And a lot of folks get a chance to enjoy the beauty of Mystic, Connecticut, the third weekend of September, the fourth weekend of September, which is, ironically, it's the exact same week that we did Summit in Newport, in the exact same week that Enclave was in the Poconos last year.
Yeah,
So,
Peter, just a reminder, Mystic has just been named the 4th most popular destination in the country.
I saw that. USA Today announced that. Yeah, thanks, Ted. You're right.
I don't know if that means Disney World or what, but it's a nice place to visit.
Absolutely.
2 nights for us residents, actually.
So our next meeting is going to be on Monday, the 12th of June.
Oh, Peter, I
Please.
had that question from last meeting. I couldn't make the meeting because
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Did anybody had any experience with the insulation, either Dynamat or KoolMat? KoolMat's supposed to insulate against heat. Dynamat is supposed to insulate against sound. Has anybody had any experience with either one of them? And does let's say KoolMat which is designed to insulate against heat, does that also insulate against sound and vice versa? Has anybody had experience with any of those, either of those installation, because you can get the pattern or the package that is cut to fit the BJ8.
I've never installed one.
Okay.
Some folks on this call, I believe, have. So Jim, are all of the holes in your firewall, are they all plugged? That's a good place to start. Make sure you don't give grommets on any open holes.
Yeah, well, that would be part of the whole install the insulation and then seal the firewall.
I put Dynamat in and I saw a significant difference. I also put the Dynapad. So the Dynamat I did everywhere. And then I put 1/4-inch Dynapad along the firewall and around the tunnel, the front half of the tunnel. And it made a significant difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a pain. It was a pain putting it in.
Yeah.
It's gonna be worse for Jim. He's got a console. He's gonna take that out too.
Yeah, and there's quite a price difference on the different KoolMat versus Dynamat.
There is, and I bought the kit. And actually, I'm
Right.
getting ready to do my MGA. I'm not using a kit because it
Okay.
was easy enough to cut it. So I just bought the 9 pieces. They're like 18 by 24. It's called a 9-pack. And you can just trace it and cut it fairly easily because it was a giant jigsaw puzzle with the kit. And I thought that when I got done, it was probably simpler to have cut it.
Okay, good, thank
And
you.
was there adhesive on one side on that, Penny?
It is. It's
Yeah.
like a butylene rubber and it's very sticky. You put it down and then I just used a I didn't buy their expensive piece. I just used a wallpaper roller to push it in. And then I used the tape because at all the joints, you need to use the
Right.
tape.
Yep.
So Jim, is this a job for next winter?
I'm going to try and squeeze it in during the summer,
Wow, okay.
but we'll see. Yeah.
It's better to do it in the warm weather, I can tell you,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the
Oh, is
stuff
it?
gets
Okay.
real stiff. You're
Yeah.
actually even better to put it out in the sun a little bit. And it's a lot easier to work with.
Okay. Good advice.
Thanks, Penny.
The other question, anybody had experience with those Russell speed bleeders for the brakes?
I'm not familiar with Russell speed bleeders. Anyone familiar with those?
I've used them a lot. They work fine.
Okay. Rick, what's, I have the BJ8. Do you know what size, the thread and the diameter? for
I
those?
don't, but you go on eBay and there's a guy that sells them. If you look up speed bleeders or speedy bleeders in Austin-Healey, there's a guy that sells them for Healey's, and he lists the sizes on there.
Okay.
So you
It's
should
a
be able to find it out.
3/8-24 thread, 3/8-24 TPI.
I think you're right.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you, guys. That's a big help. All right.
Great, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else? Bill Roser, any questions? I know you're a new member to us and you've been sending questions to us. Anything you'd like to add, Bill?
I can't think of too much. Relative to sound transmission, I know that mass weight is a positive factor in the sound transmission. Acoustically, the more mass you can put between yourself and the noise, the better.
We just don't want to lose that exhaust note. Don't want to quiet that down.
I had a comment in mail to you, Peter, about zinc and oil.
Yep.
The zinc, are seals in engines, between engines and transmissions, et cetera, copper material?
I'm not sure what you mean, which seals. So that's ZDDP, and so that is what's recommended for ours. So conventional, not a synthetic oil, Bill.
No,
but,
no, right.
Yeah.
But there's the issue of leakage. I heard on a previous recording of these meetings, leakage is a problem, and you were saying that you thought that the zinc oil helped prevent leakage.
It has on mine, on my 100. I was using Castrol GTX 2050, and I switched to Valvoline VR1 2050. It made a significant difference. This was on a fresh restoration.
Yeah.
After the engine break-in oil and all that sort of thing.
Well, I'm familiar with boats, and boats have, we install zincs on boats.
Okay.
On propeller shafts and underwater positions on boats to prevent the zinc is the sacrificial metal that will erode and wear away first before the bronze propeller or electrical work inside a boat. And the zinc being sacrificial, it may work the same way in a motor oil. Possibly sacrificing zinc in the oil versus any kind of a gasket. No.
Okay.
On a boat, you're talking about
anyone help
electrolysis.
Bill on that question? I'm not, it's
On a
recommended
boat,
for
you're
flat.
talking about electrolysis.
Exactly. But is the possibility of electrolysis inside an engine that you put zinc in there to sacrifice the zinc versus a copper gasket?
Bluntly, no.
No? Okay.
The zinc ZDDP actually forms a coating on the lifters of the engine, the valve lifters on the engine. It's a totally different game. It's to stop the high pressure damage caused by valve lifters or caused by the cam. No, it's nothing to do with sacrificial anodes. It's a whole different game.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael. Rob Moore, any news from you from Vermont with reawakening your 3000?
Unfortunately, Peter, I haven't made it back up there yet,
Okay.
but I will.
Sounds good. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining. Penny, thank you very much for your input, your questions. Hopefully you enjoyed our session. And again, we'll get this posted on YouTube in the next couple of days. And we'll see you guys on the 12th of June. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Right on, Peter.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Peter.
Bye-bye.